This is the Waltham vs. Haverhill game played on October 16, 1965. Waltham travels to Haverhill in search of their fourth win. Crimson Gritters trek to Haverhill in fourth victory bid. 1/3 of the season is now history, and Waltham High has a perfect 3-0 record. The revitalized Crimson, fresh off a stunning 28-7 win over Arlington, launched the second third of the campaign, hopefully as successful as the first, Saturday when they lock horns with winless and scoreless Haverhill. Haverhill, usually a formidable foe, is having its troubles this year as 0-18, 0-16 and 0-28 losses to Beverley, Malden, and Manchester Memorial respectively will indicate. However, the Hillies are long overdue to explode, and Waltham has to be wary of a letdown after Saturday's big win. Waltham thus far has been getting more than expected mileage from quarterback Rick Furbush, an untested senior who, at the beginning of the season, had the unenviable task of filling the shoes of the graduated Bobby Connors, Holy Cross. Rick has done a superb job thus far, both passing and running. Sarno scores 2 at Haverhill in fourth straight triumph. It's nice when you can be frustrated and still score 30 points. That's how Waltham High head coach Hal Kopp summed up Saturday's 30-0 triumph over undermanned Haverhill High before a crowd of 3,500 at the Haverhill Stadium. The win, Waltham's fourth in as many outings this fall, kept it in a three-way battle for Class A leadership with likewise undefeated, untied Everett and Peabody. Class A champ Everett routed Arlington, 38-9, and Peabody edged Lynn English, 12-8. Weymouth, next opponent for Waltham, was stunned by New Bedford, 8-7. Although the fact isn't reflected in the point total, Waltham experienced a letdown from its near-perfect performance the previous week when it toppled Arlington out of the unbeaten ranks. Blocking on the line simply wasn't as crisp, the timing was off on running plays directed to the inside, and obvious flaws in the air game stalled the Crimson on occasions. Fortunately, the high-scoring Hawks were still able to generate enough offense to pull away from hapless Haverhill, which still hasn't been able to tally a solitary point in 16 periods or 4 games. Fullback Eddie Sarno, a converted end, hauled in a forward pass from quarterback Rick Furbush and lumbered 26 yards for a first-period touchdown. The 201-pound senior bumped over from the 1-yard stripe for another TD in the third quarter. Furbush pegged an 11-yard payoff pass to Skip Vaccarello. Slot back Bob Marcoux raced 7 yards on a reverse play for a 6-pointer, and sub-quarterback Ralph Gaudet, sparkling in his new defensive safety role, picked off an enemy aerial and sprinted 35 yards to the end zone to account for the other scores. Haverhill was still very much in this ballgame until the closing minutes of the first half. The Hillies, after making a goal line stand and getting possession of the ball at their 1, presented their only sustained offensive gesture of the day by driving 75 yards and 5 successive first downs. Waltham, with only a 6-0 lead at that point, was forced to dig in at its own 24 and finally took over on downs at the 32. Furbush swept right end to move for a first down at midfield, but Haverhill got a temporary respite on a pass interception by Chris Macris. A poor punt by Charlie White rolled outside only 9 yards beyond the line of scrimmage at the 28 and put Waltham close enough to strike for a score before the clock ran out. Furbush tore around the right flank for 6 yards, fired to Vaccarello at the 12, then Vaccarello in the left corner of the end zone for the TD with only 3 seconds to go. That put Waltham ahead, 1-2-6, at the intermission. Unsuccessful on trying to spring Vaccarello loose on tackle slants during the first semester, the Hawks ran outside and found the results much more profitable. Coach Kopp used both Furbush and Gaudet in spots to run the option, with Vaccarello taking pitch-outs to find running room, and Marcoux utilized on the reverse to further confuse the enemy. A fumble recovery by end John McFarland at the Haverhill 27 paved the way for a third-period tally. Vaccarello made 16 yards in 2 carries, Gaudet spun off left end to reach the 7, and Marcoux added the coup de grace. The swift 160-pounder got a nice lead block from guard Steve Hardy and streaked down the sidelines to score standing up. Punt returns are another specialty of Marcoux's, and his nifty 43-yard runback minutes later set up the 4th touchdown. Marcoux was caught from behind at the 8 by Bob Cale, but 4 plays later Sarno crashed over from the 1 for the 6-pointer. Waltham wound up the scoring with a TD midway through the 4th period. Haverhill had checked a Crimson assault at its 30, only to have a pass on the flat by quarterback Steve Ottaviani backfire. Gaudet, guarding that side, picked off the toss at the 35 and had clear sailing down the left sideline to the end zone.